We are in a truth emergency right now.
That Donald Trump is some kind of hero who's being thwarted by the deep state.
It feeds the president's concern and often used term about a
deep state
being there to take him out.
Thank God for the deep state.
I am not the one trying to undermine American democracy. I'm the one that's trying to save it. Please remember that.
That he won the 2020 presidential election.
I never conceded because I saw what was happening, and I can't do it. I can't do it. Because I have a commitment to you, and I can't do it.
When he spreads bogus fears about voter fraud.
Put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
It's not unsubstantiated, you crooked son of a guns. It's 100% true.
When the commander-in-chief calls real crimes by his friends a hoax.
Was it spying? Well, yeah, I guess it meets the dictionary definition of surveillance or spying.
While making up crimes by his opponents?
If there was an FBI agent sworn to uphold the Constitution who can be proven to have altered a document in connection with a legal proceeding, including the obtaining of a FISA warrant, that's really serious. It doesn't get a lot more serious than that. I'd like to know the details of what the nature of the change was, if there's a mistake in some way. Based on that reporting, it doesn't sound like it was. I want to keep an open mind about it, but that's not a good thing. It's a terrible thing. The law enforcement agents and prosecutors who work with them are sworn to uphold the Constitution, sure, but actually even exceed the protections in the Constitution. They have to be of the utmost integrity and the utmost candor, and when especially you're making a representation to the court, which is what a FISA application is, it's got to be on the up and up.
When experts look around and say, what voter fraud is he talking about?
Tax experts in Silicon Valley with whom I have met who say that maybe what they'll do this next time is to really disrupt the actual election, shut down the servers that you send results to, interfere with the operation of voting machines because still too many of them are linked to the internet. So we are still very vulnerable.
It means we are in a truth emergency.
But can you imagine telling your supporters that the only way you could possibly lose is if an American election was rigged and stolen from you? And ask yourself whether you've ever seen anyone at any level of government make the same claim about their own election.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear. And I say that publicly, it's clear.
You can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
He knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did.
Votes remain to be counted. There are voices that were waiting to be heard.
And I will not concede.
And I respect where you're coming from, and I respect the issues that you're raising. You're not answering the question. Do you think it was... You're not using the word legitimate.
There are still legitimate concerns over the integrity of our elections and of ensuring the principle of one person, one vote.
I agree with tens of millions of Americans who are very worried that when they cast the ballot on an electronic voting machine, that there is no paper trail to record that vote.
But constantly shifting vote tallies in Ohio and malfunctioning electronic machines which may not have paper receipts have led to additional loss of confidence by the public. This is their only opportunity to have this debate while the country is listening, and it is appropriate to do so.
It's been happening a lot lately. People looking around saying, what is the president talking about? Where did he hear that?
They're talking about people mailing in their ballots. Do you trust the security, the honesty of such an election process?
Well, I think we'd have to figure out whether this was fraud-proof. I mean, Oregon, for example, has a terrific mail-in system, but they've already scanned everybody's signatures who's registered to vote so that they can check to make sure that, in fact, the right people are voting. And that's something that I think you'd have to figure out.
Looking around saying, what is the president talking about? Where did he hear that?
Says that someone went into the program and clicked on something that said, I want to purge all the results for this election. That goes through and that deletes all of the records within it. And if you actually take a look, you can see the success. It's like the second line up, that it completed successfully. And it literally deletes all of the files on the NAS directory as well, which is where all the results from the election are contained, where all the images from the election are contained, and all those other details. So some individual went into an application and they chose specifically to run something that would clear all records in the system that was used to generate the official results the day before an audit started.
Researchers have repeatedly demonstrated that ballot recording machines and other voting systems are susceptible to tampering.
Even hackers with limited prior knowledge, tools, and resources are able to breach voting machines in a matter of minutes.
In 2018, electronic voting machines in Georgia and Texas deleted votes for certain candidates or switched votes from one candidate to another.
The biggest seller of voting machines is doing something that violates Cybersecurity 101, directing that you install remote access software, which would make a machine like that, a magnet for fraudsters and hackers.
These voting machines can be hacked quite easily.
You could easily hack into them. It makes it seem like all these states are doing different things, but in fact, 3 companies are controlling this.
It is the individual voting machines that pose some of the greatest risks.
There are a lot of states that are dealing with antiquated machines, right, which are vulnerable to being hacked.
Workers were able to easily hack into an electronic voting machine. It was possible to switch votes.
43% of American voters use voting machines that researchers have found have serious security flaws, including backdoors.
We know how vulnerable now our systems were. I know the hackathon that took place last year, where virtually every machine was broken into fairly quickly.
I actually held a demonstration for my colleagues here at the Capitol, where we brought in folks who, before our eyes, hacked election machines, those that are being used in many states.
Aging systems also frequently rely on unsupported software like Windows XP in 2000, which may not receive regular security patches and are thus more vulnerable to the latest methods of cyber attack.
In a close presidential election, they just need to hack one swing state, or maybe 1 or 2, or maybe just a few counties in one swing state.
I'm very concerned that you could have a hack that finally went through.
You can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
That is where they are in this issue now. That Russia was not only interfering, but was trying to deliver this election to Donald Trump.
You have this very real skepticism about how legitimate was this election.
It wasn't simply that Russia got engaged or involved in hacking the election, but did so to favor Trump.
I think this is a constitutional crisis. I mean, was the president legitimately elected?
And you can have the election stolen from you.
Then what it suggests potentially is that the election was in some sense illegitimate. And I don't know where you go from there.
So do you think that Trump in any way is an illegitimate president because of the Russian involvement?
I mean, the Electoral College before the 19th has got to know whether the Russians had an effect.
The Electoral College should behave as it was designed to behave and as it was explained by Alexander Hamilton in the Federalist Papers. It should deny him an Electoral College victory.
And I would like to see the evidence, because if the evidence is there, I don't see any other way than to vote again. I mean, as an American citizen.
The election stolen from you.
Well, Russia investigation was criminally wrong.
Exactly. I mean, look, this is exactly what people close to the president have been saying, that the FBI committed wrongdoing in starting this investigation.